1 minute warning, we're about to start. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. Please stand for the national anthem. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council of any items on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll note that in the minutes. So we are here to talk about the draft budget, and Michael and Kathy are going to take it away.
Okay. I will start. From the last meeting on February the 12th, that's where council passed certainly the following items that were outlined in the 2025 budget to allow the managers to go ahead with certain projects prior to the final approval. Those items were the engineering for the facilities at 80,000, the half-ton truck for public works of 60,000, fire apparatus and equipment for the fire services of 20,000. So those were put in. Also, too, they were going to do with the RFQ for a tractor to allow the for all the managers too. So I think Steve has some other presentations after on his budget in regards to that tractor. Also, council had passed the resolution to direct the treasurer to bring back the 2025 budget at a 5.5 to 6.0% increase as of for the meeting for today. And he's going to go through a few items with you, but staff went back over it and have come back with a 5.7% increase. So we're right in the range as to what council was requesting of staff. So we'll let Michael take it away.
Welcome. We are at the 5.7, like Kathy said, which is for every 100,000 in assessment, it's a $54 increase, or approximately $450 per month. Just a reminder for looking on the horizon, when we kick this can down the road, 2026 is already, in my mind, looking at an 8 to 11% levy increase. Between CPI, don't know what that's going to be, obviously, 2% for an asset management plan, 2% for policing, and potentially 2 to 4% for tariffs, just thinking of public works and fire vehicles.
Did we really need that bad news?
No, but I would like to know what I'm facing, then have an unknown hit me in the later, Mayor, sorry.
It is a reality that we do have to know.
So again, Kathy, as the CEO has already mentioned, we are at 5.7% increase over last year. So it would be a net levy if approved or approved in principle today at $10,758,350. Let's go to the next slide. The operating budget is at a 2% levy increase and the capital is at 29%, mostly because of our reduction in pulling from reserves, which is what we want to do. I'll just pause a little bit slower than I normally talk, Madam Mayor, in case there are any questions as I go along. I see you eyeing me, so.
Yes, Michael, in regards to the overall highlights, is this the one you're going through right now with council, or yes? It says 2024 draft operating budget if increase. Should that be 2025?
Yes, that should be a obviously glaring issue, and I didn't fix it, so thank you. So 2025, yes. And to add to the third line there, estimated total assessment increase by 1.2%. If you take that off of the levy increase of 5.7, it's 4.5% increase on the existing assessment. So just so you know, keeping that in mind, as for Councilor McGregor's question earlier, it really is new assessment. So it's new dollars. It's not on the backs of existing taxpayers. Okay, capital budget, obviously net of revenue is increasing 434,000. Keeping in mind that 733,000 is carried over from 2024 projects that were not completed. We are pulling a net transfer from reserves of just under 1.5, which, as you'll see in a later slide, is down about 700,000. Version to version adjustments. I know budget time is never easy. We started at 6.5. Department heads took it down to 3 million. And through good discussions with council, we're down almost another 3 million. Up here, I see another typo, which I'll fix. Not above pointing out my own mistakes too, is a summary of all the adjustments that we've made, trying to make it simple with some explanations where it was easy to do. It's a lot of cuts. It's a lot of projects. I'll just pause for a second in case there are any questions. This is the quarterly report.
Nikki has one.
Sorry. All good?
Michael, my question is, Kennebec Trails has always gotten money in the budget, so I was curious why you would add it in as a separate line, because I was under the understanding that every year they always have a budget line with money to spend.
So through Madam Mayor and Councilor Gowdy, there is an addition there, I believe, for a sign on Highway 7 this year specifically above the normal operating dollars that are allocated. Thank you.
Lynn?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I don't believe that Kennebec Trails was aware that they had that $4,000 line item in the past. So I think that 4,000 could be covered under their maintenance this year too.
Pages that on.
Through my mayor, Councilor Clagus, that's certainly maybe an option. I'm sorry, I'm getting an echo back here and I can't figure it out if Brennan's still here, but the budget has been there. It may not have been clearly communicated to the group, and it's a team effort. So if we're ever missing anything, then please let a group know. But that money has been there in the budget, and somebody requested, I can't recall who, money for that sign. So
I'll be happy to let them know.
It may have been Gord Brown too. Okay.
Onward.
it's weird. Sorry. So this is the quarterly report, just trying to sum it up into maybe easier to understand groupings than all the GL lines that everybody sees that we get lost down the rabbit hole. So just going into reserves, as we already talked about, we're pulling right now in the budget that's before council, almost 1.5 million from reserves, which is down from last year by 738,000. The internal loan paybacks for fire and public works are in there. And right now, I have booked the surplus entry, which I know council was looking for. The audit is not final. Chickens are not hatched yet. But the entry that I've done is just over $1 million, which puts us up to 5.8. If we pull out everything that's in the 2025 budget, we will be down to just over 4.3, which is above the recommended amount. So at least we're in there, but we don't always pull everything that's in the budget. So on this slide is just a summary of where the reserves are sitting right now, just to get to that 5.8. And I like that the working fund reserve is up 2.4, which means we can pull that 1.5 essentially from the working fund if we need to. And we have money to borrow from ourselves. Really like this slide. Probably one of my favorites. Property taxes per day by dollar by household puts in perspective what we get every day, even though we may not always use the services. Again, I forget where I went yesterday, and I think I spent $20 on coffee and whatever at Tim Hortons for 4 of us. Sounds like a lot, but it's not compared to what we get for services that we need every day. The roads being plowed, paramedics, fire responding to needs that hopefully we never have to use them, but we do share in that cost. And so to go away from a pretty slide, these are just dollars. Again, summary that we are going up 32 cents per household per day. And I know that little costs add up, but it's, I'd say worth every penny or every nickel, maybe. And that's it.
Okay, discussion. Who wants to start? Are we, okay, Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to staff for bringing back what is a very good budget, in my opinion. My question is about reserves. I'm worried going down the road. I know we don't need to worry about this year, but going down the road, we've got some big stuff coming down. For example, the fire, and we only have 14,000 sitting in a reserve, according to the previous chart you showed. And I really think we have to start looking at, like, you know, we know we haven't need another truck next year. Public Works is going to need more vehicles. I know in 2028, as the chief said at his last meeting, like, you know, we have 60 units of bunker gear that are going to be needing to be replaced. And I think that we have to start looking at really designating our reserves where they need to be. And I brought it up at the last meeting about a special levy. I didn't go really much further with it, but every time we do a survey, fire comes up as being one of the most important things that residents in our community acknowledge that they want to be there. And is there any way we can looking at a special levy on the tax bill for fire in particular, and have those designated reserves start to build? So Frontenac does it so that it's not a big hit on the levy when we do have to spend a lot of money in a year, because they have that special levy that goes out on the tax bill that's sitting there for fire in particular.
So through Madam Mayor, Councillor Gowdy, anything can be done. There's always time constraints and resource constraints. I would want to check, and I believe you said South Frontenac is doing it, so there's maybe no issues there, but we did look at separating out the police and levy a number of years ago, and we had a legal opinion that that was not advisable. Again, it's an internal department, so I think a different issue. Right now, I don't know how to do it in Diamond, but Louise, I could lean on certainly. She's very smart in the Diamond software. I'm not sure this is just my opinion. I don't know that there's value in the work that's added to it. We can, as long as council dictates it, or we put in there, we're putting X percentage to fire reserves. And if council chooses to pull it out, that's the only way it's going to get out in my mind. We do need to put money aside for reserves. That's why if we can smooth out the increase of the tax rate and potentially keep it at 5 or 8% or whatever it is per year, I would rather that than a fluctuation of hills and valleys. And we don't maybe buy a public works truck or a fire truck for 3 years and we had 500,000 in the budget. We can put that 500 into reserves and have the money there for when we need to. It's really hard without adjectives that are going through my head because there's so many projects that pull from us every year and everybody has valuable things that we need, the roads, the bridges. There's certain things that are emergencies that we're going to have to do regardless, and hence the 4 million. Yeah, I mean, looking ahead to next year, if we don't want to pull anything from reserves, we need to cut another 1.5 million from projects. It's really hard. So can we, if council dictates that I add that, I will add that. I will figure out how to do it. I'm just not sure if it's worth the work, being honest, Councillor Kelly. But again, it draws the attention to what's there. And I think it shows the people what we're prioritizing, but that we also have that from the strategic plan and we have flexibility if we're not alienating ourselves to one specific way, maybe. I've probably gone down the rabbit hole too much.
Any other comments about that? I think one of the issues too about putting stuff separately on the tax bill is you sort of set a target on that department from people who don't like the fact that anything's gone up, for sure. And that's what reserves are for, are to put them into those departments that need them. And when they need them, if there isn't enough there, then the other departments contribute and sort of the saw off of you take it this year, we'll get it next year kind of thing. And unfortunately, that's the way life goes in the municipality. Duncan.
Through Madam Mayor, this is kind of related. So I don't know how I feel about doing it for the fire department because it is the same levy one way or another. So I definitely see the point. We need to build up the reserves. But to your point, I would like to see that for the police because I would like our residents to see how much OPP are costing us every year. And they're the ones that may be able to put pressure on our MPPs and our provincial government to really look at what that's costing tax dollars. So I know you've said you asked for a legal opinion before. There are some municipalities, though, that are putting in how much police services are costing as a special levy. And I think that's very important to make sure the pressure is put in the right spot.
So that's where I was going to go, Madam Mayor, and through also to Councillor McGregor, is that it is separated out there to show what policing is costing us and not putting the extra pressure that's maybe needed. But honestly, I'm going to beat this dead horse again. That 1% HST increases, I think, is where the pressure needs to go to give us revenue, a huge source of revenue to offset all these capital projects that we need to do. And then it's fair to every person in what they're spending. But it is on the chart that Madam Mayor held up there, and it's also showing that it's gone up 5 cents, or sorry, down 5 cents this year, but of course it's going to go up quite a bit next year.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, also it would be advantageous if the province took 38 back. That's where a big part of our money is going as well. So and 509, both of them. And I think that's where there has been certainly some scuttle about that kind of thing. So we'll see what happens, if that'll come to fruition or not.
Unfortunately, nobody's taken anything back this year and we got to deal with it. So
Yeah.
any other questions or comments? Okay, where do we go from here? Are we ready to get this budget and finish it? Like Duncan.
Okay, now that we're off that point, I ended last council meeting with a proposal that we use some of the surplus money from last year to reduce our tax levy to stay in line with CPI. So last year we overestimated our budget a little bit, or whatever happened, that we ended up with a surplus. We're putting that entire surplus in a reserve, so our reserves are going to be sitting just under $4.4 million, between 4.3 and 4.4, correct? Yes. So If we were to take $200,000 or $250,000 of that money that we had excess from last year and put it directly against the budget, it would mean that our overall tax levy to existing property owners will be around 2.4 to 2.5%, which is in line with CPI increase for last year. And I think that with our residents dealing with as much pressure as they are right now with their own personal budgets, I think it would really benefit our community to not increase our taxes again 4.6% when we have the ability to keep it at 2.4.
Kind of defeats the discussion we just had about keeping money in reserves, but comments? Lynn?
I hear what you're saying, Duncan, but if we're looking at such a huge increase for next year, if we were to reduce it this year, would it be even higher of an increase next year? What are the implications of that, Michael?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor McGregor and Councillor Cleggus is obviously our reserves will be less. We'll have less money to draw on. Yeah, I mean, tell me something's going up by 15% and it sounds a lot worse than 2.5%. Do you again kick the can down the road, or do you keep it right here, part of the can? It's a struggle, Councillor. I can understand what Councillor McGregor is saying, and I understand the residents would like a 2.5%, but I think if you asked me, if I take my treasurer hat off for a second and a resident, I would rather see a 5% increase each year than 2 and 8. So I think that's, again, just a personal opinion.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Susan Irwin is on Zoom with us, and I think she has her hand up, or at least that's what Chris, either she wants to talk or Chris wants to talk. I think it's Susan. Susan's not.
It's
Go.
me. Thank you,
Go.
Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I do appreciate the burden on our taxpayers, but I'd just like to emphasize or revisit our treasurer's comments about what we're facing next year at a potential 8 to 11% increase. I'd rather ensure that we built up our reserves so that maybe we wouldn't have such a significant increase next year. I think we have to take a longer term vision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Duncan?
So my last kind of comment on this issue is when you look at our tax increases for the past 3 or 4 years, and you look at where we're planned ahead, people's wages in our municipality are not keeping up. People's pension are not keeping up as an increase with our tax increases. So I know my wage isn't going to go up 6% this year, or 5.7%, or 4.6%. So I don't know how we can continue to do this and keep raising taxes beyond CPI and have a healthy community. I just don't know how it works.
You can cut services, and then you can say to people, sorry, can't do that. We didn't budget for it. So, and that's the reality of this business. You either cut services or you raise taxes. You can't stop doing the things you're doing. All you can do is do them less so that you're not spending the same amount of money. Trucks are still going to be 300,000 or 400,000. Fire trucks are going to be $1.5 million. Gas is gas, electricity, all of those things. So it's kind of pay now or pay later. Michael?
Well, and obviously we still have the tariff impact, right? That we don't know what that's going to do to capital projects. And I just foresee a reduction in services. If we don't want to put the tax rate up, which I can totally sympathize with, both sides, treasurer and personal hat, it's cutting services. Not responding to snow as quick, not having the appropriate equipment to protect our volunteer firefighters potentially. There's going to be drastic adjustments. And I could be wrong on my 8 to 11% as well, right? Those are just taking 30 seconds to put my head to next year. Maybe things will be better than I think.
We have to hope for that, but
yeah.
Kathy?
The other thing I just want to remind is that we have the RFP out there. It's due this week for the organizational review and service delivery. So that should probably tell us in regards to service delivery. Is there things that we're doing that we don't need to do? Is there things that we can cut? So if anything, we should wait for that to come in. And I agree with Michael. We've seen it over the many, years ago. If you drop down too low, you have to increase so much the next years just to meet the normal expenditure. So, and that's hard for folks as well.
Michael,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other thing I'll just let council know, the proposed levels of service that the province is requiring us to do, again, we have a lot more information now to make an educated decision than we ever did before. Is it depressing with all that information? Absolutely. I can't be an ostrich and stick my head in the sand. But I think the proposed level of service will help us understand where we need to go in the future and plan better, but we do need to put money into reserves to be able to pay for these different items coming up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to staff. We set some goalposts for you to hit. You've hit the two main ones that we asked about, was the actual percentage increase and to make sure that we maintain 4 million in reserves. So I think, you did a good job making sure that those two goalposts were kept in line. So thank you.
okay. All right. Is there anything else? One more.
About a completely separate topic.
Okay.
At the council meeting tonight, we're talking about public feedback. And one of my suggestions to council is going to be that we run a reoccurring ad in the Frontenac News similar to South Frontenac. So I'd like to see it once a month, a bulletin go out in the Frontenac News from Central Frontenac that kind of encompasses all the things we're doing in one ad once a month. And I just wanted to make sure that if that goes forward, we have we have enough in the budget to cover that. And based on the advertising on the Frontenac News, we're looking at an additional $2,500 to run that ad for a year.
Depends if you do a whole page like South Frontenac does or that quarter page. It's
Quarter-
probably
quarter
3
page.
or 4.
It's $2,500 for the remainder of 2025 for a quarter page ad.
Does everybody want that or just Duncan?
We're going to talk about it at council.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or we're going to talk about it at council? Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know if you wanted to save staff time, if you wanted to do it right now at the budget discussion and talk about it, or whether you wanted to wait till tonight.
I think it's probably just part of what the office would do, as long as we're letting them know that the money is in there. And I'm sure we can afford $2,500 somewhere along the line. Okay. Kathy.
Also too, I think that Steve had in regards to the public works, he just wanted to bring something forth to council.
Can you hear me now? The last time we talked in budget, we lowered the tractor down. We started at 190 and then we went to 160 and then it was 120. And I think we talked about if we could get a tractor for 120 and then later on we would see the surplus and maybe buy the chipper later. But through Canoe, we were able to purchase through Canoe and get the discount. And with negotiations, Lance, the supervisor, was negotiating with the Kubota dealer. And if we keep the 120 in there and they're giving us more than expected for our trade, we could get the brand new tractor with the loader and the chipper for just under the 120, like 119 or 118. So that's what I was kind of hoping to get passed today, if that was okay.
Sounds like a good deal. We'll do a motion for that. Okay. Oh, I have one. Discussion?
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, it will give them authority to go ahead and do that right
Yeah.
now. So moved by Lynn and seconded by Bill. Whereas the public work manager has source quotes for the tractor included in the draft 2025 budget. And whereas Canoe Procurement provided a quote from Kubota in Hardington for a new tractor with loader and chipper for the cost of $120,000 before HST. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the purchase of the tractor prior to the final approval of the 2025 budget and authorize the mayor and CEO clerk to enter into a formal purchase agreement, and further the public works manager be authorized to issue a purchase order in the final amount to be no more than $120,000 before HST. Oh, go ahead, Susan.
Oh, my hand was just up to vote in favor.
Oh, okay. All right. All those in favor? Carried. All right. Because we can approve the budget that's before us, but then we have to do a bylaw for it to be in force.
For later,
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
Anything else? If not, I have a motion moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Cindy Kelsey. The council received the 2025 draft budget presentation as prepared by the treasurer for information, and further that the final budget be brought back to the April 8th, 2025 for approval and enactment. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. All right. And that's it. Thank you so much for getting together. We just weren't sure how much time in tonight's meeting this might take, and better to have the time to give it the time it needs. If there's nothing else, moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Bill Everett, that this special meeting of council be adjourned until 6 p.m., at which time the regular meeting will convene, said meeting to be held Souls Memorial Hall, Charlotte Lake. All those in favor? Carried.
No, I just wanted to thank council, department heads. As you've heard me say, and I'll say again, this is the most depressing time of the year. It's discouraging, but I appreciate everybody's patience and putting all our heads together, because we do come to this problem with different mindsets. And if we can listen to each other, then we can come up to a great solution. So thank you.
And thank all of the staff for all the work you do in the budget. We are adjourned. See everyone at 5 for Committee of Adjustment and 6 for council.
See how number 7.